It is my great pleasure to welcome you all here this evening for the Academy Gold Medals presentation ceremony. This evening's ceremony represents something that is of fundamental importance to our Academy, and that is recognising excellence in the world of learning. The Gold Medals were established in 2005 by the Royal Irish Academy and the Higher Education Authority. Each year, 2 outstanding academics are recognised for their international contribution to their field. And this year, it is our great pleasure to honour Professor Jane Ohlmeyer and Professor Jonathan Coleman, who have been immensely influential in their respective fields. I would like to extend a warm welcome to them both here this evening, to their families, to their colleagues and friends, who I am sure are immensely proud of their achievement. And of course, naturally, we wish Professor Ohlmeyer and Professor Coleman continued success in their work. The Royal Irish Academy Gold Medals in 2023 are sponsored by Allied Irish Banks. Under AIB's commitment to support and empower leadership, and as a furtherance of its current support for research and further education, AIB wishes to support this work and to recognise world-class researchers and their relentless drive to enrich lives and to benefit society. And for that, we do thank Colin Hunt, who has supported this and sadly cannot be with us this evening. I'm delighted to welcome Senator Malcolm Byrne, Spokesperson on Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, to present the medals. But first, I would like to invite him to give the keynote address. So the floor is yours, Senator Byrne.
Gurmagad Mary, Gurmagad Gulair agus Gurmagad Mary. I want to thank the Royal Irish Academy for inviting me here this evening for the presentation of these gold medals, and indeed to join with all of you in recognising the outstanding academic contribution of 2 wonderful people who not alone contribute significantly to the development of knowledge in their own respective fields, but also value the importance of how that knowledge can be used to better the society in which we live. In every sphere of human endeavour, it is important to recognise excellence. The student who against the odds achieves an incredible result, the entrepreneur who develops a groundbreaking business idea, the people who make incredible and enormous contributions to make our communities better places. Indeed, it occurred to me as I was typing the following words to commence this speech, I want to thank the Academy that it made me think of the forthcoming Oscar ceremony and indeed the particular show of Irish artistic excellence that is being recognised this year. And tonight we are recognising not just excellence in the field of academic and research endeavour, but also the importance of inspiring future researchers. So to Professor Jane Ohlmeyer and to Professor Jonathan Coleman, I congratulate you on your achievement. We're going to hear citations this evening, and I'm sure from hearing the citations, everyone will understand just fully how both of you are very much deserving winners. But as you know, these aren't like gold clocks, sort of retirement gigs. This is about not only recognising the outstanding work that you do, but they're designed to be encouragement for you to continue the work that you are doing and highlighting the importance of research in building a better country and indeed a better world. Your success, I'm quite certain you'd agree, would not be possible without the support of your family, your friends and the teams with whom you work, and that broader network is also deservedly recognised here this evening. As Mary would have mentioned, an event such as this one is not possible without generous sponsorship. And AIB has used the slogan "Backing Brave" for quite some time. So I would hope and encourage the bank to continue to back those at the frontiers of Irish research, and indeed to applaud the bank for the support of the Royal Irish Academy Gold Medals. To come back to, I want to thank the Academy. The Royal Irish Academy continues to serve as an essential public forum for evidence-based debate, and to all of the team who are here, not just in organising tonight's activities, but indeed for your continued work on such a diverse range of events, publications and contributions to public discourse. Your work is genuinely appreciated. I do this evening, as well as she's coming toward the end of her term, want to particularly recognise Mary Canning for all of your work as President of the Royal Irish Academy, in raising the profile of the Academy and in leading this organisation through particularly difficult times over the last number of years. I think your presidential discourse on the critical university last week, those of us who were fortunate enough to hear it, highlighted again the priority that you and the RIA has given to the role of higher education and research in informing public debate. And so, Mary, I want to say thank you for all you have done. So tonight, this room rightly celebrates expertise, but we have had enough of experts. That famous phrase that was uttered by the leading Conservative politician Michael Gove during the 2016 Brexit debate in the UK encapsulated a mood that many that they are tired of being lectured to by people that seem removed from their daily lives. And indeed, that mood was also reflected during a debate that happened in Sheffield, a town hall on Brexit, where an economist spoke about the potentially extremely negative impact that leaving the European Union would have on the UK's GDP, where a voice from the crowd challenged, "That's all very well talking about your GDP, but what about our GDP?" Days after the inauguration of President Trump in 2017, and people may remember this, when pressed by a journalist about what he saw as provable falsehoods by that administration, the President's counsellor, Kellyanne Conway, said instead that they represented alternative facts. And indeed, during the course of the pandemic, while there were many superb contributions in informing the citizenry by experts in science and public health, there was, among some, a growing public distrust and even rejection of scientific evidence and research. And indeed, this is also evident in discussions and discourse around climate change and the biodiversity crisis. So as we increasingly see evidence-based research being dismissed by some, this is accompanied by a growing distrust of those perceived to be in power and in control of that expertise. Populists across Europe increasingly base their campaigns on what they market as common sense, in sharp contrast to dull and dreary academic evidence-based reports. And while having debates in august institutions such as this one, that facts matter, a forum such as this cannot compete for coverage with mass media and indeed with the largely unregulated world of social media. In our digital society, I believe that Karl Marx was right. And for those of my political colleagues who are here, or indeed the representative for AIB who's just heard me say that Karl Marx is right, I can assure you I'm not about to change my political colours, but do hear me out on this point. Marx predicted that the revolution would come when the instruments of production were in the hands of the proletariat. And if we think historically, when government made a decision, that would be relayed in a vertical decision through established channels such as RTE or the Irish Independent or the Irish Times. And after suitable interrogation or fact-checking, it would be available to the population at large. And similarly, when a scientist or a social scientist made a discovery, it would be peer-reviewed and it would be published in relevant journals. Today, anybody can communicate their views and their set of facts through digital channels. They don't need to be fact-checked or peer-reviewed. The mainstream media or so-called academic experts cannot control what might best be called alternative truths. Indeed, to get access to reliable facts fact-based journalism, or scientific research, much of it is hidden behind a paywall. And if it's not enough, and I hope I'm not being too negative just yet, but I may be even more so, if it's not enough that those who devote their lives to ensuring that facts and the truth matter are being challenged by those who do not see the value in evidence-based research, our expertise as humans is being superseded by artificial intelligence and machine learning. In his book, Homo Deus, Yuval Noah Harari poses a question at the end. And I think this is something I struggle with even to answer. But the question he poses is, what will happen to society, politics, and daily life when non-conscious but highly intelligent algorithms know us better than we know ourselves? So this is the challenge to our experts. And it's quite evident that a large chunk of global power has shifted to those who control and design the complex algorithms that now determine so many parts of our lives. While in the past, those in power could shape how technologies were developed and how they could be used based on the advice offered by experts, such as our two medal winners here tonight, that role is now increasingly in the hands of a small number of mostly men who tend to broadly share a similar worldview. And during the 18 months or so that a number of us in the Oireachtas, sitting on the Oireachtas Media Committee, were engaged in pre-legislative scrutiny of what became the Online Safety and Media Regulation Act, what really struck home to me was the difficulty of trying to legislate and regulate a digital environment that was changing ever so rapidly. It's impossible in many ways to keep up. The convergence, though, of new technologies should be forcing more public and political debates nationally and globally around issues such as an ethical framework around the use of artificial intelligence. How far should we go with genetic modifications of humans, animals, and food? Do we need a type of Geneva Convention for cyberspace? And how might a non-aligned country such as Ireland respond to a state-sponsored cyber tech? The emergence of machine learning that can write intelligent and considered articles presents an enormous challenge to experts, to universities, not just around how students learn and are assessed, but equally around whether we need to invest in expertise from academic research when machines can do it for us. Is it no longer a case of we have had enough of experts and more, we no longer have a need for experts? And by the way, I don't rule politicians out of dealing with these technological changes either. AI-enabled devices are already able to draft legislation, and I'm quite certain that they can engage in informed debate and scrutiny of that legislation before an encrypted electronic signature is applied by a digital president. And politicians in Ireland, as everyone knows, we often have a role in assisting our constituents, navigating and making representations in a complex bureaucracy. In a data and algorithmic driven world, much of that work will be unnecessary. In fact, we may even see in a parliamentary metaverse in the future, a backbench avatar posing questions about a future government research strategy to a ministerial avatar. So the convergence of technologies poses challenges, opportunities, and questions for academics, politicians, and indeed for all of us as citizens on this planet. In medicine, would you trust a 100% accurate AI-enabled machine to carry out your surgery, or the human consultant, even though they're more likely to make a mistake? And who should make that decision? When we look at the conflict in Ukraine and other conflicts around the world, if we look at how AI-enabled drones are able now to target individuals and kill them, then defence debates will revolve around at what stage there should be human intervention. Once the drone identifies a suspect, should it make the decision to execute, or should that remain in the human hands of an expert? I'm very conscious that this is a celebratory evening and that in my remarks, This evening I've perhaps painted a rather dystopian picture of a dystopian society where the human expert is challenged both by those who do not want to engage with evidence-based research and by technology which may go further than we've ever imagined. But the role of the human expert in society has never been more important. They must stand up for the truth and for learning and take on those who seek to undermine research and academic endeavour. They must also lead the debate, not just in the university, but in wider society, around how we adapt as a society in a world of quantum computing, machine learning, and big data. I think critically, the human expert must continue to place a value on ethics and on social responsibility. And again, that debate cannot only happen in a university setting. It is impossible for those of us who have the honour of being members of a national legislature to be experts in everything, although there are some of my colleagues who would purport to be. We have to value the contribution of those who can present evidence to inform legislation, policy, or strategy. The challenge to all in the research community is to set out in an understandable fashion as to how and why their research can impact, as well as why it is important that research informs policy. It also means understanding the concerns and fears of those who may believe that the experts are out to get them and look to convince them of the importance of research. As part of that contract, government must place a value on research and expertise and ensure that our education system supports both experts and learners in the challenges and opportunities that the digital century will present. Any research strategy must always place a premium on research excellence. We can never have enough of experts. Garmagwith.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Byrne. You've certainly raised some incredibly important issues here, which we talked about last week. And your mention of ethics, I would have come back on the ethics issue, because there is a case where, in fact, understanding the ethical framework is an important part of any education, I would suggest, in our university system, inculcating ethics and truth and independence in our graduates. So you've raised really important issues, and also tonight we're going to be honouring a historian and the importance of history as we understand what is happening in Ukraine. Again, we talked about that last week. So you've really put some incredibly difficult issues for us to ponder on, which we won't get to tonight, but I guess that the Academy will take it away and think about it. I would like now to proceed with the reading of the citations for the two experts we do have here tonight, and that we are honoured to be presenting the medals to. I would like to invite Dan Carey, our Polite Literature and Antiquities Secretary, to read the citation for the 2023 Royal Irish Academy Gold Medalist in the Humanities, Professor Jane Ohlmeyer.
Professor Jane Ohlmeyer is one of Ireland's foremost leaders in history and the humanities and a scholar with a major international reputation. Her research on early modern history is characterized by archival depth, historiographical range, and methodological innovation, placing Irish history simultaneously within British, European, Atlantic world, and Indian Ocean world contexts. Her highly significant contributions to the study of early modern Ireland and Empire are evidenced by her publications with the most prestigious presses and in highly regarded journals, by her visiting professorships and fellowships in the UK, USA, Brazil, South Africa, and India, by her grant capture, and by her global outreach through collaborative research and invited lectures. Professor Ohlmeyer was the driving force behind the 1641 Depositions Project, a groundbreaking form of public history which has meshed the 17th century Irish experience with Ireland's contemporary peace process. She has been the PI or co-PI on 25 research and research infrastructure projects with awards totaling in the region of 22 million euros. The EU-funded SHAPE ID project on inter- and transdisciplinarity has been recognized as having, quote, exceptional results with significant immediate or potential impact, and the quality of work produced is world-class. In 2020, she was the PI for a Horizon 2020 MSCA co-fund program entitled Human Plus, which was ranked second in Europe and places the human experience at the center of technological research. Apropos of your comments. Her own incisive research over several decades led to the singular distinction of her giving the 2021 James Ford Lectures in Oxford. The Ford Lectures date from 1896, and over the years, fewer than 10 women have delivered them. The last person from a university in Ireland invited to give the Fords was FSL Lyons in 1977. Professor Ohlmeyer's next book, Ireland, Empire and the Early Modern World, based on the Ford Lectures, will appear with Oxford University Press later this year. Professor Ohlmeyer is passionate about history and has demonstrated leadership to the discipline nationally as a member of the Irish Manuscripts Commission, as president of the Irish Historical Society, and internationally through the Royal Historical Society and other collaborations. She has also built extensive and sustainable interinstitutional and interdisciplinary research capacity in the arts and humanities in Ireland through her leadership of the Trinity Long Room Hub, which she helped conceive in 2006, in Europe, especially through her work in digital humanities, and globally as part of the international collaborations around democracy and through bodies like the Consortium of Humanities Centers and Institutes. Professor Jane Ohlmeyer champions and supports research and scholarship, promoting understanding and awareness of the importance of science, arts, and humanities to Irish society and beyond. She is the Erasmus Smith Professor of History, 1762, at Trinity College, Dublin, former chair of the Irish Research Council, director of the Trinity Long Room Hub, 2015 to 2020, Trinity's first vice president for global relations, 2011 to 2014, and a member of the Royal Irish Academy. Jane Ohlmeyer writes fluently and elegantly. She has a proven record of dedicated teaching at undergraduate and postgraduate levels, and through her groundbreaking 1641 Deposition Project, she has created a legacy and has changed the humanities research landscape for generations. I now invite the President to present the 2023 Royal Irish Academy Gold Medal in the Humanities to Professor Jane Ohlmeyer.
I now invite Professor Catherine Godson, Science Secretary, to read the citation for the 2023 Royal Irish Academy Gold Medalist in the Physical and Mathematical Sciences, Professor Jonathan N. Coleman.
Good evening. Jonathan Coleman is an outstanding, highly recognised materials scientist. He is the Erasmus Smith's Professor of Natural and Experimental Philosophy and a Principal Investigator at both the Cran and Amber Research Centres. Professor Coleman leads an Irish research group which is internationally renowned for its achievements in the highly competitive field of two-dimensional nanomaterials. He has helped to shape the field, most notably by the major discovery of a technique called liquid phase exfoliation. The invention of this versatile method has enabled the large-scale production of defect-free graphene and a wide range of other nanosheets used both in fundamental research and in numerous real-world applications, finding an increasing number of practical applications in areas ranging from sensors and printed electronics to battery electrodes and, importantly, gas and permeable plastic beer bottles. His scholarly contribution lies in his insights into physical chemistry and his ability to formulate simple models of the exfoliation process, which has facilitated its application to many different two-dimensional materials and given new impetus to the graphene boom of the first decade of the 21st century. His clear, reliable and accessible papers published in the leading scientific journals include a series of groundbreaking contributions that continue to guide the field. These highly cited contributions reflect the fact that this is a hugely popular field that has benefited from support from the EU graphene flagship. The author lists on his papers testified to his ability to assemble the best team from Ireland and abroad to tackle a particular problem. Professor Coleman has conceived and designed a number of different programs of research for which he's assembled large collaborative research teams. He's been awarded 8 patents and research awards of €10 million. The quality of Professor Coleman's contributions has been acknowledged with numerous awards, both in Ireland and internationally. In particular, he was inducted into the Advanced Materials Hall of Fame in 2022, and in 2019 he won the Tubal Award for the best application of nanotubes. He was awarded the Gold Medal from the Institute of Materials in 2012 and was named the 2011 Science Foundation Researcher of the Year. In that same year, he was named amongst the top 100 material scientists of the previous decade by Thomson Reuters. In addition to giving public talks and speaking in schools, Professor Coleman's work has featured frequently in national and international print media, including Scientific American and The Times. He has appeared on radio and television, including a coast-to-coast interview on Fox News. He featured in a video produced by the American Association for the Advancement of Science and contributed to Nano in My Life, a DVD used in Irish secondary schools for 15 to 16-year-olds studying science. His demonstration of how to make graphene in a kitchen blender and a silly putty graphene sensor sensitive to a spider's footprint have captured the attention of non-professional scientists around the world. The focus and excellent research has led Coleman's involvement in leadership positions in the EU graphene flagship, where he is Deputy Director of Materials Science and a member of the influential Science and Technology Forum. He obtained his PhD from Trinity College Dublin in 1995 and was elected to membership of the Royal Irish Academy in 2015, and he currently serves as Head of Physics at Trinity. I now invite the President to present the 2023 Royal Irish Academy Gold Medal in the Physical and Mathematical Sciences to Professor Jonathan Coleman.
That was, thank you for those citations. I would now like to invite Professor Jane Ohlmeyer to say a few words to us on the receipt of her gold medal. Thank you.
President, Senator, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute pleasure to be here this evening. And thank you for this incredible honour. It really is so very, very special. Professor Carey, that was such a gracious citation. Thank you enormously, but also all colleagues in the Academy who have really worked so hard to make this evening so very, very special. I want to also just say, Mary, you have been an inspiring president through 3 very challenging years, and we've particularly appreciated your support for the humanities. So thank you. Sadly, my children and my mother can't be with us this evening, but many other family members are, and as are lifelong friends. And I just simply want to thank them for your love, your friendship, and your support, but also your great humour through good and bad. And over the years, I've been blessed to work with incredibly gifted people who are so passionate about education, libraries, archives, telling our story, policy making, and of course, research. And it gives me such pleasure to see so many colleagues from across Trinity, but across all the institutions on the island and beyond here this evening. Thank you for your support. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. I hope that my scholarship has offered some fresh ways of understanding Ireland, our history, our culture, our relationship with the world. Of course, as the President has alluded, history is so core to our identity and to better understanding the human condition, as are other disciplines that underpin the arts and humanities. And these are areas in which Ireland excels. And we only have to look towards Hollywood and the Oscars to see this. The creative arts are about truth. They're the early warning systems in any society. And I'm going to paraphrase Philip King here. The arts make audible what later becomes visible. Yet despite their global prominence and the global prominence of our storytellers, our creative writers, our actors, our animators, and the heavy lifting that they do for us as a nation, the arts and humanities are chronically underfunded. Just imagine, with a little investment, what we could achieve. It's world domination in terms of the Oscars. But of course, we're really grateful for what we do have. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank the numerous individuals and agencies in the United States, in the UK, across Europe, and of course here in Ireland for their support for my research. I couldn't have done it without you. We couldn't have done it without, especially the Irish Research Council. And I do want to say a few words about the Irish Research Council, simply because many of my own research projects simply would not have happened without relatively modest grants from the Council, which I was very privileged to chair between 2015 and 21. As many of you may be aware, the IRC supports excellence through bottom-up research without thematic constraints. And this funding for basic research, also known as blue skies or curiosity-driven research, is across all career stages and across all disciplines, about 70 in all. They're never funded to the degree that we might have wished, and we always have Denmark in our sights. The Government of Ireland awards and more recently the laureates have really nurtured talent and facilitated new discoveries, new technologies, new understandings and new futures. In addition to future-proofing Ireland, this research, particularly the Marie Curie programme and the highly prestigious European Research Council Awards. But in fact, most of the ERCs originating within Ireland are held by individuals who had previously been supported by the IRC, the Irish Research Council. In short, what I'm really trying to say here, it's impossible to overstate the importance of funding basic research at and beyond the frontiers of understanding, together with more oriented research that addresses the challenges of today. Now, as the Irish government prepares legislation, Senator Byrne, obviously our research landscape is being reconfigured, and we have a unique opportunity to create a balanced research ecosystem where we support basic research from the bottom up alongside applied research that might be done in a more challenge-oriented way, and where we support researchers across all disciplines and at all stages in their career. More meaningful collaboration between arts, humanities and social sciences and STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, maths and medicine, is taking on greater importance in EU funding calls. But only by supporting the underlying disciplines can we actually realise meaningful interdisciplinarity. Moreover, as we seek to achieve equality of status and parity of esteem, it's critical to put in place processes that respect the dynamics of research in the AHSS as well as STEM. And it's processes that recognise that each discipline has value in and of itself and does not exist in the service of another. To use language that is inclusive and to distribute funding fairly. So as we embark on this exciting new venture, which will shape the research landscape for generations to come, I feel that we need to ensure that the legislation does three things. And Senator Byrne, we were chatting earlier about the three things. Here are my three things. Firstly, the legislation needs to enshrine core principles like parity of esteem and the importance of having a balanced and diverse research ecosystem. The second thing it needs to do is put in place appropriate checks and balances that safeguard these principles. And thirdly, it allows for accountable and meaningful governance. We understand that the consultation period for the new bill will finally begin in the coming weeks. And I encourage everybody in the room to engage with that process because I feel it's incumbent on us to help to ensure that Ireland is a research leader, not a follower, that we attract rather than hemorrhage talent, and that our drawdown of European funding is as strong as comparably sized nations. So thank you very much for your attention and thank you again for this wonderful award.
Professor Ohlmeyer, thank you for that impassioned statement of the importance of the humanities in our society. Professor Coleman, may I ask you to come and address this distinguished audience this evening? Thank you.
Well, the last thing I wanted to do was follow Jane Ohlmeyer. But I'll give it a go. I'm going to give a slightly more personal approach to this. When I found out I was getting this medal, I reflected a little bit on the nature of discovery and it made me think about it. So first of all, I'm delighted to be here, of course, and I'm delighted to have this great honour, and it is a great honour, especially coming from such a wonderful body such as the RIA. So that really makes it special, so thank you. In the citation, if I remember correctly, the words developing liquid phase exfoliation were used. And I thought that development was a very appropriate word rather than, for example, discovery or invention. And the reason for that is science today really requires an awful lot of development rather than discovery. So I do remember a moment of invention about 15 years ago, where I was reading Physics World magazine, as you do, and there was an article about this wonderful new material called graphene. And this must be a famous material because my children know about it. But the article said that one of the big problems is that people don't know how to make this wonderful new material in large quantities. And at that moment, there was a eureka sort of event where I realized, well, actually, I know how to do this. So, and that doesn't come along very often. So it was light bulb time. Now, at that moment, I said, I'm going to do something about this. And I got out a chemical catalogue and I ordered some graphite, which would be the starting material for my experiments. And a couple of days later, the graphite arrived and I did what you should never, ever do as a scientist. I put it on a shelf and forgot about it. So I don't know how many eureka moments have been ruined by bad memory or putting it behind something on the shelf. A few months later, one of my students walked in. Her name was Jenny Hernandez, and she said, "Boss, I have a great idea. I know how to make graphene in large quantities." And I thought, shit. So she said to me, this is what I've realized, and her idea was very similar to mine. So I made a great show of taking the graphite down off the shelf and said, well, look, I've been planning this for a long time. So she went off with her graphite and she came back a couple of days later with a vial of black liquid and some electron microscope images showing that she had made graphene in a method that was scalable and could be developed into a method to make it in very, very large quantities. So you might say that was it. There was a moment of invention, and then there was nearly an opportunity wasted, and then there was a few days of research discovery. But that's not how it works. And that's really the message I want to get across here. So that was really the starting point. It was the starting point for maybe 2.5 years at first of very, very hard work, where Jenny Hernandez, and I think many people here will know Valeria Nicolosi, who's now a professor in Trinity, led a team of maybe between 10 and 15 researchers to gather up all of the physical and theoretical evidence required to really demonstrate that we could make graphene and how the process worked, what were the properties of that graphene, and all of this stuff. The paper was eventually published in Nature Technology in August 2008, and that was nearly 3 years after the moment of invention. So this is why I think this, development is an important term, much more important than invention, discovery, inspiration, etc. So really, it's the message I want to convey is that it's not really about inspiration, although that is important. What's particularly important is a large amount of perspiration. And what's critical here is that that perspiration is not done by the prof in his office when he has a bit of time to think about stuff, which is not very often. That perspiration is made by the students, the postgraduate students and the postdocs that are in the labs doing the hard work. And I think that's very important for us to remember. Now, we've been doing this development of this method for the last 15 years. We've published countless papers, including maybe 15 in Nature and Science on this particular topic. And that just goes to show, after that moment of inspiration, there's an awful lot goes on. And that real work, as I said, is done by those students. So I checked my records this morning and I found that 25 PhD students in my group and 15 postdocs have worked on this one topic over the last 15 years. And I see some of them in the audience here today. And this work, these achievements, these results could not have been obtained without those students and postdocs. Research would be completely impossible without their efforts. So I just want to round up by saying, we really need to appreciate them, and particularly in the case of postgrads, we need to pay them properly. Thank you.
So this is what the Royal Irish Academy is about, is listening to two inspired researchers whom we are honouring this evening. So Jane and Jonathan, thank you both for your really fascinating talk, each of you, on such different areas. I've learned a lot. Before finishing, I would like to express our thanks to Senator Malcolm Byrne. Malcolm and I have known each other for a long time, and it is inspiring for me to realise that over the last 3 years I have felt his support in the Houses of the Oireachtas for the Academy as we tried to make it relevant during period of COVID. Senator Byrne has always been a source of support and strength and advice, and I think this is not to be underestimated. And so thank you very much for coming tonight and for thinking through also the importance of experts. So thank you very much. And before I invite you to join us for a glass of wine, I wish to acknowledge the work of our Senior Vice President, Jerry McKenna, who unfortunately cannot be here with us this evening because business detains him in the north of Ireland. Our Polite Literature and Antiquity Secretary, Dan Carey, thank you. Our Science Secretary, Catherine Godson, thank you for your oversight and guidance during the process of the decisions about awarding the gold medal. I would like to thank the assessors, internal and external, who contributed their time and their expertise in the unenviable task of selecting award recipients. And I would like to thank again Colin Hunt in Allied Irish Bank. Colin headed the strategy for higher education in Ireland and has a particular interest as well in the work of the Academy, and is really sorry that he cannot be here tonight. I think it's results time in AIB, so I think he was really unable to come, but I know that he's here in spirit, and we look forward to working with him over the coming years and to this continued support of the bank. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I have the pleasure now of inviting you to join us for a glass of wine in the members' room. And I know it's a proud occasion for students who have contributed to the work of our incredible gold medalist, as Jonathan has said. So I'd like to thank them and the families for being here this evening. Thank you very much.